when I watch his video, it makes me think that he knows that he's been the subject of a criminal investigation because he has said, I can't talk about it. Yeah. I just would like you to start out with, I haven't committed any crimes or stolen money from my fans. Like, I just want you to lead with that. Just lead with that. But, you know, what I think a lot of people don't know that attempting a crime unsuccessfully is, in the eyes of the law, almost as bad as successfully attempting the crime.
Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I'm here with Josh, America's attorney, and we're going to be talking about what I'm going to call the Logan Paul scam with cryptozoo. I've watched a couple of great videos on Josh's channel, and what I really liked is that we actually have a very similar opinion of whether or not Logan Paul will could be indicted and what he would be indicted for, and also about the potential defamation lawsuit, which, I check this out.
Matt, thanks for having me on your show. Glad to be here.
Sure, no problem. This got thrown together quick, but like I was saying before, I watched a couple of your videos this morning. My editor, Colby, he sent me the videos. I watched the videos. Really well done.
Thank you.
Really interesting. But I think Colby sent them to me to watch because you were talking about. Well, there was a couple different videos. Well, one of them was about the defamation. Like, could Logan Paul sue? Sue Cofeezilla, and I was saying this almost the exact same thing you had said, which was, well, I mean, I feel like, yes, absolutely he could sue him. He can sue him. Do I think it will get thrown out? Most likely. And then I was saying, and if it doesn't get thrown out, then Cofeezilla will countersue. And, I was explaining how that would basically play out. And I was thinking that in a way, you were saying that you doubted that Logan Paul had actually talked to a lawyer about this because he just doesn't really have much of a case.
Well, it's not so much that he doesn't have a case. I mean, he's not going to win his case, okay? Right. But I can tell that if he talked to a lawyer, he didn't listen to the lawyer in any way. Like, just whatever the lawyer said, whoop, because the things that he's saying in his response video, they're nonsense. If you have spoken to a lawyer, they're nonsense. You wouldn't say it. Yeah.
Right. Well, so I want to first talk about that. And I want to get to I'm going to give you my explanation of how I think it played out, and why he hasn't spoken in a year. Not sure if you watched that video, but I have an interesting take just based on my background, which I'm not sure you even know much about because this came about so quickly.
I know that you went to prison for 10 years longer than I did.
Yeah. It's a little
so
over
far.
a decade.
Sorry, 10 years longer than me so far.
There's time.
Yeah, I'm a young man, right?
Right.
Ish.
So I was saying that I was like, look, I think because Colby was like, well, would he sue him? Why would he sue? If he's going to lose, why would he sue? And I was saying, hey, listen, you have enough money. You'll sue people just to harass them. But on top of that, I said, he probably knows if I sue him, he'll countersue me. We can then negotiate, then we can end up settling. And the settlement doesn't have to say that either one of us is at fault. And even if Logan Paul had to pay him $100,000 or $200,000, it would look good for him because he could at least allude to the fact that he won the lawsuit or that Cofeezilla settled. From Logan Paul's perspective, he can twist that in a way to make it sound like, that Cofeezilla, settled with him, even though he really paid, you know how the lawsuits are, like, especially if you settle out of court, or if you settle and neither there's a gag order on both of them, then it may work to his advantage, since he seems to have dug in on his position of, I didn't do anything wrong and I'm as much of a victim as anybody, even though he probably made a few $1,000,000. So that was my take on that very well may be possible. Maybe why he said, oh, you were right about the ending. Well, save your money. You're going to need it. It was so.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you're Logan Paul, I want you to think like Logan Paul, which should be pretty easy, because I don't know that, I just think there's not a lot of effort being done there. But just imagine you're Logan Paul for a minute. This story comes out from Cofeezilla. Just imagine that you're super guilty. Like, you actually have pocketed the money that the customers paid. You haven't paid the developers, whether the developers are good guys or bad guys or whatever, but you haven't paid them. Right. The game doesn't work. You have money. How would you respond publicly, if you're Logan Paul, to what Cofeezilla has done?
Okay, well,
and remember, you're guilty.
Oh, I know. And keep in mind, the person I was prior to prison would have probably done something very similar to him and denied everything.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Right. However, since then, I've realized, listen, my scumbag lifestyle got me in prison, which I had coming, no doubt. And I realized that really your only path to redemption is to just own up to everything, and even the things that people don't know, and admit that it's even worse than they think. Because if you don't come 100% clean, you're not going to grow as a person. And people typically can see through the bullshit, because most people, they're intuitive. They can tell. So you're just fooling yourself by thinking, hey, I can spin this in a positive manner. Your best bet is to say, hey, I screwed up. People are very forgiving, especially if you own up to it.
Yep.
And that's really his only chance. But he didn't do that.
No, he's had 2 public responses now, right? One is kind of a shorter video, which I kind of mocked a little bit, because he's like got the camera real close to him and his eyes look like he's been crying.
The piercing eyes. When you said that, I laughed. I was watching that in the gym, and you said the piercing eye, and sorry, that was a great video.
Hey, we got to use what we can. He's got beautiful eyes. He should play that up, right?
Right. No, he's definitely gotten very far on his looks.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably, just kind of pull away from the camera and flex a little bit here. I got to show off what I got. He's got to show off what he's got. That's fine. But in the other video, the kind of the longer podcast form where he's on with his buddies, he says, look, I'm the victim here. My team put me in positions where I was doing deals with bad guys, criminals, and I didn't know it. And I'm the victim, which, I mean, he's the leader of the project, right? It's got his name on it. There are some people who think that every problem is a leadership problem, and saying that you're a victim is like the worst kind of team leadership. It's not going to get him out of the mess. It's kind of, I don't know. It's hard to respect.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And what's funny is, he says that, I put a team in charge of hiring all of these people. And what's comical to me is, like, one, you put the team together, and he's never specifically said who the team is, but the team is probably Jeff, his manager. He doesn't want to throw Jeff under the bus, so he keeps referring to this hypothetical team that messed up and hired these people. That he and then look, that whole video is just like it's ripe with contradictions, and it really just makes him look worse and worse.
Okay, so when I watch his video, it makes me think that he knows that he's been the subject of a criminal investigation, because he has said, I can't talk about it.
So listen, that's my second thing. That was the second thing I was going to say.
All right.
Here is what gets me. Here's what answers all of those questions. Now, I've actually met several guys, and I was actually offered. Do you do federal law?
Yes.
Okay, so a pretrial intervention.
Yeah. Smart.
Right? Okay, so in my opinion, in my video, I said, listen, here is what makes sense. When everything went bad and he realized that the game was not going to come out, that everything he had promised wasn't going to work out, that his developer and the manager of the guy he hired, I forget his name.
There's
Eddie.
Eddie's
There's
one of the
Crypto King.
guys, and the other, what's the first name of the other guy? Zach. Yeah.
Zach Keller. So anyway, when he realized that all three of these guys are stealing from him, and that they've got their own wallets, they're taking the money, they're undermining the whole thing, and then he realizes he's obviously said some things in text that are damning. He's planning on running a little pump and dump scheme. When he realizes he's done all that, in my opinion, I was saying, look, most likely he goes to his attorney, because he said that he had spoken to an attorney. So I thought, look, most likely if you're making the kind of money he's making, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a month minimum. So if you're making that kind of money, you've got a lawyer on call. He probably called his lawyer, said, look, this is what's going on. Here's how much money's been taken. Here's the problem, and laid it all out. And the lawyer probably said, stop texting, stop talking to anybody, do not respond. Let me look at this. The lawyer probably looked into it, came back and said, look, there's a very real possibility that you've committed wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. And the best bet is for us to go to the U.S. attorney and explain the situation and see how we can correct it before you get indicted. He then met with them. There's then a 6-month to a year-long investigation with the FBI or Secret Service, IRS. I'm not sure, whichever body they give it to.
Yeah, going to be the FBI.
Okay, so they look into it. They come back, and they obviously they worked out a deal during that time. And one of two things: you either pay everyone back, or you complete the development of the project and deliver what you promised everyone. At that time, Cofeezilla comes out, and Logan Paul is now available or free to talk about this. He can't accept responsibility. So his lawyer probably made very sure, like, let me explain something. You cannot accept responsibility. You've got an agreement. You've told the U.S. attorney you had no idea. You worked with them. You made some mistakes. You can't now come out and with full responsibility, because you may end up, one, getting sued. Two, you may end up getting indicted, because it's completely at the U.S. attorney's discretion whether to indict you or not. So your only choice is deny that you were a part of the whole thing, that it was all a scam. Don't even address those text messages, and complete the token, or the NFT. That's why he's 100% sure. Oh, it's coming out. Of course it's coming out. If it doesn't come out, you're going to jail. I'd learn how to code just to make sure it came out.
Yeah.
So that's I feel is a very real possibility.
That's a reasonable hypothesis. I like it. Right. Let me challenge you with a question.
Okay.
So like a lot of the time, the main reason that businesses don't succeed is undercapitalization, right? It takes more to get something going than you think it's going to.
Yes.
It seems clear to me that a possibility, because I don't know if this happened, but a possibility here is Logan and his team, which I think is just his buddies, but whatever. I'm just going to say Logan, because I don't know who's on the other end of it. Here's a theory. Logan has this idea for a game, and doesn't really know how much it's going to cost to build the game.
Okay.
He starts promoting it, and obviously he's a big name. It's a draw. People, because of a lack of well, you know what? I'm not going to blame the victims, but some people want to invest in his game.
Right.
That money comes in. Now he's insistent that he hasn't profited from this in any way, which he doesn't have to have put money in his pocket for him to be a criminal in this situation or for him to be civilly liable. He doesn't have to have made the profit. Okay. He doesn't have to be driving around in a car that he bought with the money that these people put in. But what if he undercapitalized this business severely? This first money started coming in from customers, and instead of allowing that money to do what it needed to do to play the game, he used that money to help grow the business. He like reinvested it in the business.
Okay.
To me, that sounds a little bit like a Ponzi scheme. Like he doesn't actually have he's not put enough money into the business. So when the first money comes in that's supposed to be used in the game, instead he's plugging it into the business to try to grow the business, to get more money to come in to the game so he can grow the business more. I don't know. I just like,
I agree, but was there any money paid at all? Like there's a dispute on whether any money was paid to any of these developers.
Yeah. So we don't know that. And if I'm Logan, it to me, it is so simple to show, here's a transaction. Like put it up on screen. Here is where I paid these people. Like there's not a lawyer in the world who's going to tell him that he can't show honest evidence of an actual payment to the actual correct people. Like get it out there, lead with that.
Yeah, I know. I hear you, but here's the thing: taking the money and reinvesting it, or taking the money for yourself, or leaving the money in these NFTs or these tokens or whatever he's got it tied up in his cryptozoo, leaving it in there. Like, look, just because I bought a house doesn't mean I didn't profit. Well, like if I'm a developer and I'm building houses, and I end up with half of the houses, and I use those houses, those sales of those houses to inflate the value. And I say, well, I never made any money. Well, I still have 30 houses in my name. I have equity. Now, is the equity questionable? Yeah. Is it worth 20 million or 200 million? That's up for debate, but I still have equity. You still have the tokens. He's still got the tokens that he bought, or the NFTs. I forget exactly the sequence of events. But he still has the crypto. Yeah, I guess it's cryptocurrency. I guess it's token. The cryptozoo. He still has all the tokens, and he's saying, "I'll never make any money." Like nobody has. I don't think anybody has an issue with him making money. Like that's fine. But him saying, "I've never made any money," doesn't mean that you're not a scam artist. Like just because your scam artist, your scamster buddies, or your fraudster buddies screwed you over before you got a chance to screw over all of your investors, that doesn't mean you didn't just commit a crime. I mean, I looked at the text messages. It's a pump and dump scheme. They're buying this much. They're going to hold it. They're going to sell it slowly. They will not sell it for more than anything that's going to affect more than 3% of the value. Like you're running a little pump and dump scheme, bro.
So if the text messages show that it was an attempted pump and dump scheme, and it didn't work, like he wasn't able to pump it, and he hasn't been able to dump it, but what I think a lot of people don't know, that attempting a crime unsuccessfully is crime. In the eyes of the law, almost as bad as successfully attempting the crime.
Right. I would say it's running into the bank, attempting to go into the vault. You can't get in the vault. You run back out of the bank. I mean, did you rob the bank? That's still bank robbery. I'm sorry that you weren't successful at it. You still robbed the bank. You still went in. And let's face it, he did get some money. He does have value there. He did acquire, whatever he's calling it, cryptozoo or whatever. He did acquire those. He does have value. So it did work to a degree.
I haven't consumed all of his response to Cofeezilla's trilogy, but I have not seen him say something like, hey, if crypto hadn't tanked, we wouldn't have a problem here.
Right. No, he hasn't said anything like that.
Yeah. I wish that he would say that, because I don't actually wish that, but like, for people who want to believe that he's not a bad actor, he can just blame it on market forces. And that's like so credible, right? You like, no one understands why the value of crypto goes up or down. Everything seems behind a veil or a curtain. So if he wanted to just say, well, this isn't it, this isn't me, this isn't even the developers, crypto has crashed, and that's the real problem here. Like, there is a lot of people, a large number of people who like him, who would accept that without further examination. I feel like that's a great excuse that he's left on the table, unless he has said it and I missed it.
Well, I no, he hasn't, not that I've seen. And here's the thing about that. It's still, to me, because he hasn't said anything like that, tried to blame it on, market forces out of his control, then because he hasn't, it goes right back to it goes right back to the whole one, of course, don't talk about it, don't admit it. And you can't go on there and start coming up with excuses because you have an agreement with the U.S. attorney. So do not go and start covering and making lies. You're just going to make yourself look worse and worse in case you're indicted in the future. Like, don't get yourself indicted. We have an agreement. We have a pretrial intervention. All you have to do is make the game good and, of course, cooperate, assuming these guys are indicted and they go to trial. At this point, Logan, just don't own up. Don't lie about anything. Don't take any responsibility for anything, for God's sakes. And make sure the game works. Like, that would meet all the criteria of a pretrial intervention. And I've known a couple of guys who have done pretrial interventions. One of them ended up completing the pretrial intervention for a Ponzi scheme, then ran another Ponzi scheme, got caught, and they charged him for the first Ponzi scheme and the second Ponzi scheme.
Well done. Well done. Like, if you're born with certain stripes and you don't want to change them, that's fine.
Listen, I think he's working on his third one right now.
Oh, wow.
To be honest.
Okay.
We'll see.
But it's not Logan Paul. You don't know him.
No, I don't know him.
Okay, no. So I want to go back to something you said earlier, which I guess guarantees that what you said earlier is not going to get edited out, or this is not going to get edited out. But in any case, you were talking about how Logan's bringing in, 300, 400, 500K a month, we think, whatever it is. We don't know, right?
Right.
My understanding of Cofeezilla's take on the scam is that the people are out about 2.5 million. Is that your understanding?
So those are just the people he spoke with.
Okay.
There's thousands of other people that invested much smaller amounts, 2,000, 10,000, 15,000. So my estimate was there's probably $5-10 million that's out there.
Okay. Well, $10 million is a lot of money. To me.
Yeah.
5 million. No, that's a lot of money. But what is preventing, even if your theory is correct about pretrial intervention, what is preventing Logan Paul from saying to everyone who put money in, here is your money back. I want you to play this game in 2026 when it works. And until then, here's your money back. I'm not a scam artist. I don't want your money. I don't want you to have it. My version is that the developers took it, or my bad guys that my team hooked me up with have taken it. But I don't want your money. I want you to have it.
Yeah, I'm going to make good.
Yeah. Like,
I'll take the $5 million or $10 million loss because I'm that kind of a guy, and I'm worth almost $1 billion, right? Like he's
right.
$600-700 million. That's nothing to him.
And what you're signaling is it's not a loss because I still back this game. It will work. You should come back to me. We're going to have so much fun hatching deformed, weird animals online. More fun than you could ever have in real life. And we want to do it together with you. And I'm not going to make you be a victim. And I'm so sorry that that I had your money for a few months. Here it is back.
Right.
I guarantee you, there is no agreement with any U.S. attorney that doesn't allow for the proposed criminal defendant to prepay restitution.
Right.
You could make yourself look so good to do that.
Well, I agree with you. Here's my problem with that, because that's come up, is that I understand do you do criminal law?
No, I mean, very, very, very rarely. Now I've done it in the past, but it's not my jam.
Okay. Well, here's the thing, and I'll give you an example, and this is why my take is different. Even criminal defense attorneys, if they spend a considerable amount of time with criminals, a criminal is going to speak with you differently than he's going to speak to other criminals. When you're incarcerated, the veil is off. There is no pretense. These guys are brutal with each other. They say exactly how if you think they're scumbags out in the real world, imagine what they're like among one another. So I can tell you right now that you never leave money on the table. That if you can get away with not paying these people back. Now, I'm sure if the U.S. attorney said, look, you pay back this $7 million and it's all good, I'm sure that part of his negotiation to me would have been like, hey, can I just make the game good? I can fix the game. Here's what happened. Possibly because Logan would rather spend a couple $100,000 than give him $7 million, especially if he feels like he hasn't done anything wrong, which he seems to have deluded himself into believing.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, but you're working from an assumption that, as I hear it, that he's criminally liable, that his intent has been to perpetrate a scam, and therefore, why would he even try to rescue himself from that path by paying restitution? Is that
right? Why would I pay $7 million to get out of this when I can, for a couple $100,000, I can make the game good and keep the money? Why would I do that? Like if my attorney can work that deal out with you as attorney, which he probably can, I think. And here's the other thing. Like here's the whole criminal mindset. I'll give you an example.
He bilked some of the nation's largest banks out of an estimated $55 million because $50 million wasn't enough and $60 million seemed excessive. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't typically commit crimes, but when I do, it's bank fraud. Stay greedy, my friends.
Support the channel. Join Matthew Cox's Patreon.
Did you ever see the movie War Dogs?
No, sorry, man.
That's okay. There's a movie called War Dogs. It's about these two stoner kids from Miami. They get a massive contract with the federal government to sell ammunition for the Afghan security forces. One of the kids that ended up in prison, his name was Ephraim Deveroli. Ephraim Deveroli and I were in prison together, and I wrote his memoir. So during the course of his memoir, and listen, this is a guy who is, he is extremely intelligent and brutal and absolutely he has no conscience at all. So I remember at one point he had told me about a deal where the guy, he owed somebody like $500,000, let's say, for the sake of argument.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, and he was hounding me for this money and this and that. And I went, well, you made over $1 million on the deal. You owe him $500,000. Why didn't you just pay him? And he went, well, he didn't have anything in writing. And I went, yeah, I understand that, but you told me you had an agreement with him and you told me you owed him the money. And he just looked at me and he went, yeah, but he couldn't, there's no way for him to get the money. And I went, I understand that, but you owed it to him. You had an agreement. And he looked at me and he went, and he said, okay, let me explain. He said, even if he sued me, it might cost me $100,000 to fight the lawsuit. And even if I negotiated some kind of an agreement, maybe another 100,000. So why would I give him $500,000 when I know I can get out of it for 200,000 in a year from now? And I said, because you're burning bridges. And he goes, Matt, there's lots of bridges.
So you're talking about the difference between someone with a completely broken moral compass and someone who has some like kind of decency, right?
Right, but you're assuming that Logan Paul has some decency.
Okay.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he has a lot of fans.
To that video.
Yeah. So I think here's where I'm coming from. First of all, you got to understand, I don't give a rip about Logan Paul or his drinks or his fights or his scandals or anything like that. Like, I'm a real person living a real life, you know. I don't care about that stuff. But I watched his video and he is saying like, I'm not the bad guy that I used to be, right? I've turned it around. I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to make things right, including not really talking to the investigative reporter in any way, including giving vague denials that don't really make sense, including not being able to explain the text messages that seem very damning, including not offering much of any not offering any restitution of any kind, not publicly giving real deadlines for when the game is going to be operable, not producing any evidence of payments made to anyone to show that you're actually trying to work on it, not explaining how you were able to go into business with people that you now say are criminals. Like, it's completely pathetic in one sense, but on its own terms, he's saying, I'm here to make it right. I'm not the bad guy you think I am. Now, your buddy in prison, Ephraim, what did you say his name was?
Yes.
Ephraim
Devereux.
He didn't tell anyone he's a good guy. He doesn't go around saying, like me, trust me, please me.
No.
I'll please you. He's going to do what's good for him with no ramifications in a world of traditional ethical norms, right? Like other people have value, other people have rights.
Yes.
Okay. According to Logan's own terms, he is saying, I live in this world with norms. I used to be a bad guy. I'm a good guy. Well, if you're going to live in that world, you have to play by the rules that we play by, which is if you are worth billions of dollars, which are, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, which I have no reason to believe that that's true. But if that's true, then, you know, the financial future of the people who trusted you that you ruined, make it right. Like, if you want to build your brand, do just a tiny bit to show that your money is where your mouth is. But it's not happening. It's so easy. Oh, my word, it's so easy. He actually could have used Cofeezilla's expose to say, oh, well, this is where I launched my reimbursement campaign. Like, he could have killed Cofeezilla's story, you know, instead of like hunkering down and claiming he's not allowed to say anything or do anything. I don't know. I guess I don't have enough of a criminal mentality. That's my problem.
Well, yeah. I wouldn't say it's a problem, but yeah.
Well, you want to be able to code switch, right? You want to be able, when you're with the good guys, you say good stuff, and then when you're in prison, you need to be able to just thug it out.
It's funny, like when I'm sitting here listening, because I interview a lot of criminals, right? Like that's what I do. I interview guys that, break into ATMs, rob banks, run Ponzi schemes, that sort of thing. So what's so funny is I can't tell you how many times they're in the middle of telling me their story, and I'm like, nice, like, oh, okay, nice. And then I had to stop myself, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, stop. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Stop. But it's the same thing when I hear Logan Paul. I start doing the numbers, and I think, man, these guys were going to walk away with like $30-40 million. Like that's a nice lick. And then I think, whoa. It's a pump and dump scheme, bro. Like it's funny. I went on Cofeezilla's Patreon. He interviews a girl or a woman from Australia. She's a single mother. She lost $2,000 that she doesn't have to lose.
That's my point. Yes. What would it cost super wealthy, fabulous, famous, green-eyed Logan Paul to give her $2,000 back?
Yeah, $2,000.
If she is persuaded to give it to him one time, if he gives it back and gets the game up running, she'll probably come back with $2,500.
Yeah, and think about it. If the game does come back, and it does end up working, and it does well, and he really puts his money where his mouth is, then the $2,000 that he's giving her, he doesn't lose.
Oh, that's my point. Yes, and if he hasn't already spent it on other stuff, then it's just sitting around waiting to be returned anyway. It's
It's funny. To me, it's a classic example of what happens when you get famous and you start making a lot of money, and everybody, you have all these sycophants around you. You just start surrounding yourself by yes men. Before you know it, you start believing your own press.
Okay,
and
now
you think you're infallible.
That hurts a little bit because I actually have like 16 producers and fans here in my studio, and they're all telling me like everything I do is great and I never say anything wrong. And now I hear you calling that into question.
Listen, I hear. Listen, do you have like I have a girlfriend who periodically I'm like, listen to what this guy just said in the comment section. I'm like, he said, I'm this, I'm that, I'm wonderful, I'm great. He listens to me all the time. He loves everything I do. And I said, right. And she'll look at me and she'll go, he doesn't know you. Okay. Trust me, you're not all that. So I keep a few people. I have a couple of buddies around me that will tell me like, listen, you're a douchebag. Okay. People get little micro segments of you at your best. But the truth is you're kind of an asshole. And I'm like, I want to keep those guys around me. Yeah. It keeps you level-headed.
You need them around you, or you'll end up proving right all the people in the comments who say that you're like the worst person that ever lived, that you aren't actually reformed, and you figured out a way to run your criminal scam on YouTube rather than in prison or whatever.
You have been watching my stuff.
Exactly.
Listen, that's 10% of the comments.
Yes. Oh, okay. So listen, I have put out 4 videos about this Logan Paul Cofeezilla thing, and like I was saying before, like I don't actually care about it. I don't drink Prime, and I don't watch fighting except with my kids, and I don't really care about the issues, but like I make these videos. I know what I'm talking about. I mean, I practiced law for 20 years. I've had 20,000 clients. I'm not just like somebody getting up there and saying, well, here's what I think about Logan Paul, or whatever. Like, I'm just talking about the law. No joke. Read a comment this morning that said, L for the lawyer, fake lawyer, doesn't understand the difference between a one-party state and a two-party state for consenting to phone calls. And I'm like, dude, this guy in the comments who thinks I'm a loser, he's the guy I'm trying to reach, because my entire mission is to help people understand the law so that when they hear news, they can interpret it without their idiot friends telling them, well, this is what this means, or this is how this is going to work, or whatever. And not going to believe the spin from the famous person who says, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, just kind of thinking like a lawyer. But this guy, I can't reach him. I straight up explained the difference between one party and two party consent and how they interact in the video, which he watched because he's commenting on, and he's just like, loser.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I hope he subscribes
horrible.
and watches a few more videos, and then maybe he learns something.
Listen, that's what I always get back to him. I'm like, listen, did you watch the video? Like, did you subscribe? Like, you can say whatever you want, subscribe, watch the video, please watch the commercials. I have a Patreon. And then it just infuriates him. I had a guy who he left this rant about what a scumbag, selfish piece of garbage I was. Just went on and on and on. No conscience, just horrible things, right? My response was, and yet I sleep like a baby at night. Like, what do you think? Do you think that if all that's true, that your comment is going to upset me? Like, let's assume all that's true. Do you think that sent me into a tailspin? Come on. What I was going to say is, I forgot about the two-party state. Like, my take on it was that, and I don't know the exact law, but I said, let's assume that obviously I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer. So he could not record him, and he did, and he played the recording. And I said, I have a hard time believing that anybody would even charge him. And if they did, what's it going to be? A misdemeanor? Like, who's going to charge him?
Well,
so
okay.
To me, it's silly.
You've been on the other side of that. So let me ask you a question. What state were you in when you committed crimes?
I would Florida, Georgia, South Carolina.
Okay.
Alabama.
Well, okay. Did you get charged in Florida?
Tennessee. What?
Did you get charged in Florida?
Yes.
For breaking the law while you were in Florida?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Cofeezilla was in Texas when he made the phone call. Did he violate Texas law? No. Texas is a one-party consent state. So California has a two-party consent rule, but he's not in California. They can't go get a sheriff from California to drive to Texas to arrest him. You're not subject to the criminal laws of another state when you are in a state whose laws you are not violating. It's like so basic. Like I want to teach the rules of the game to people because life is a game with a lot of complicated rules, and it's easier to play if you know them, and it's easier to win if you know them. And there are people who know the rules and they use them against the people who don't know them. That happens every single day. And
I've done that many times.
Yeah. And there are people who know the rules and know how to break them, right? And maybe Logan Paul is one of those guys. I don't know. But like, Cofeezilla is not going to get a California arrest warrant for something that he did in Houston. It's not going to happen. And, I can get like law shamed in the comments as much as possible, but I actually do know which states can prosecute people for actions committed in violation of that state's code. And I guarantee you it's only people who are inside that state.
Well, great. I mean, either way, yeah, that's perfect. I was going to say your explanation, my explanation, that's the same thing. I mean, that's perfect. So obviously he didn't break the law at all. So
right. Now, if he were in California, he would have committed a misdemeanor and he would have been, assuming that he didn't get permission, which it seems unlikely, there's actually a provision in the statute which says if the person on the other end of it has reason to believe that it's not a private conversation, you're not guilty of a violation. Well,
they
he straight up says, I've got my suspenders on, I'm doing my investigative reporting. Like, why would you think it's a secret conversation?
And he says on the recording, basically he says, you're a journalist. You report on news. You're a journalist. So he says, like, you're doing an investigation. So he can't say, oh, I thought we were just having a conversation. I thought we were around the barbecue. I thought we were just a regular conversation. I didn't know what was going on,
So then the sheriff, when Jeff runs to the sheriff to complain that he's had a misdemeanor committed against him, and so the sheriff's going to say, okay, so then you said what to this reporter? And he's going to say, like, well, I didn't really say anything. I kind of told him, like, I really didn't have much of a comment. Oh, and you want me to drive to Texas to arrest someone that you didn't really say much of anything to, but they told you that they were making a story for public consumption? I mean, dude, I'll tell you what. There's perks to being famous, and Logan Paul is enjoying some of those perks, which is that you can say some really, really stupid stuff, and people are just like, "Oh, this is so great. We love you."
I do, I also want to touch on this just because I found it comical, and I think you'll find it comical, is that this killed me when he was like Jeff said all these things, all of these things, he said these things. It was an illegal phone call, and you're going to be sued. And he discarded the phone call. He discarded that. And also, these guys are also criminals, so you can't trust their word. Never addresses the text. But here's the thing, and this is what killed me. I said, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the DEA getting a search warrant for a house, going into the house. They raid the house. They find a meth lab. So they find a meth lab. They arrest you. They get you downtown. They get you to the courthouse, and come to find out that the address was the wrong address on the search warrant, and everything gets thrown out. So it was a legal search. Does that mean that you didn't have a meth lab? I mean, we're talking about two different things here. You're still making meth. Like, you still ran a scam. Doesn't matter if the guy was you can't trust his word. Doesn't matter if even if the phone call was illegal. Like, all of these things that Logan Paul brought up, regardless of all of that, it's still a scam.
Hey, the number one, look, I know Logan Paul didn't have a lawyer help him with his defense speech, because the number one thing that he leads with is Cofeezilla did this he did this reporting for views and fame, and ultimately to make money.
Which is everything that he does.
Okay, yeah. I just would like you to start out with, I haven't committed any crimes or stolen money from my fans. Like, I just want you to lead with that. Just lead with that. Maybe you bring up that that Cofeezilla is profiting off of the story later. Just please lead with, I'm not a scam artist. And if you can't lead with that, don't say anything at all. But I will say this, many times when journalists, whether they work on YouTube or at a newspaper or a television network or what have you, report on a high profile crime or scam or whatever, later, those reporters, they get a paycheck from the newspaper or network that they work for. Does it make their reporting less valid that it's their job? Like, Cofeezilla is self-employed. He better go find famous people to report on. It doesn't make it not true. It makes it smart. Like, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty clear. Like, it's pretty clear. And if you go to his Patreon and everything, like, it's so clear that he covered all of his bases.
My problem is we are failing to account for just how stunning Logan Paul's eyes are. The dude, he has a piercing stare. Look at me. I'm just a guy. I can take my glasses off. You can't even zoom in on my eyes, but they're just human eyes. They're not that impressive. They're not gonna launch some $100 million business like he has. but he can get the camera in his face and just say whatever he wants. And it looks sincere, but like, if you think about what it is nothing. It's just farting in people's faces, basically.
I think we should wrap it up with farting in people's faces.
Wait, do you want me to actually do it? Because no, you don't.
Okay. I mean, I listen. I mean, unless do you have anything else you want to say? I'm sorry. I was gonna.
I mean, I 100% want to encourage people to go watch my Logan Paul videos.
Oh, absolutely. No, listen, they're way better than this one. So, oh no, you did a great job. Your editors did a great job. I mean, it's you know, you really take apart the whole thing and oh, you have I only watched. You said how many videos? I only watched 2 of them.
I did a short one a couple of weeks ago, and then I did a longer one that's like 20 minutes long, and then this week I did 2 little short 6 or 7 minute ones. And they've gotten some traction. I'd love for people to watch them. I have a very young YouTube channel. I've only been at it for about a year. I would love people to subscribe. My passion is helping people understand how the law affects them in real life so that they don't ever have to hire a lawyer. They can get free legal advice from YouTube ahead of time. So that's what I'm all about.
And it's super entertaining. Like, I mean, yours, like there's a lot of YouTube channels out there by lawyers, but yours is done very well. It's entertaining. It really grips you right away. It's, you know, visually it's fun to watch. Like it's really, I'm just saying, because when Colby told me, hey, I got this lawyer, I thought, man, I don't want to watch a video about a lawyer. And I was like, wow, this is really good.
Hey, thanks so much.
So, yeah. Well, yeah, my editor's got to step his game up. He really does.
Ouch.
So I got to talk to Colby.
I mean, he'll probably cut that part of this conversation out.
Oh, that'll never make it.
Okay, yeah. Right.
Well, you know, listen, nobody's watching my videos because they're hoping for professionalism. I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on. And yeah, I thought this was great. So thank you. I really do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. I hope it's not my last time to be on your channel. And I hope I see some of your viewers migrate over and watch some of my opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and look, if you want me, you want me on your channel or anything, or you ever need the advice of a criminal, I'm available. Like everybody's like, you should say former con man, I don't say that because like an alcoholic, you're still an alcoholic. I'm just not drinking right now. You know, like I'm not active.
Well said.
So yeah, definitely. If you want me on the show or anything, definitely. And absolutely. Let's face it. Things are going to keep coming up. So I'm sure we're going to keep reaching out.
Yeah. So here's what's going to happen. Logan Paul is going to get sued by the investors. I 100% can guarantee it's happening. It's a guarantee. And we should talk about that lawsuit sometime.
That would be great. We got to wait for it to come out. But yeah.
All right.
All right. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to see you, Matt.
All right. See ya. Hey, I appreciate you guys watching. And if you like the video, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Leave me a comment in the comment section. And I respond to almost all the comments. Obviously, I have Patreon. I have a Patreon. It's in the description box. I also have all my true crime books, my own personal memoir also. It's in the description box. And for America's Lawyer, we're going to leave the link to his YouTube channel, and he's got some really good videos. Well, I mean, I watched 2, but the 2 that I watched were done super well, and he's very entertaining, and it's not boring, and it's not what you typically think of a lawyer's channel as being. So, you know, it could very much be kind of a Graham Stephan type thing, because when you think of a real estate agent, you don't think of exciting, but you watch Graham Stephan's channel and super cool. So I once again appreciate you guys watching. So thank you, and I will see you.